They were asking the question, why am I not more thankful? I think if you ask almost anyone, they would say that thankfulness and gratitude is something to aspire to do, is good, is healthy. And yet, for many of us, and myself included, thankfulness is not something that always comes easily. Today, I'm going to be sharing 6 reasons why you're not more thankful. And they apply to myself, they apply to you as you're watching or you're listening, and we're going to dive into them right now. And with that, welcome back to the Can I Ask You a Question podcast, whether it's your first time or your 29th. Each week we're exploring questions and we're unlocking wisdom through solo episodes with myself and deep dive interviews with the most interesting people in my world. You know, when it comes to this question, why am I not more thankful? Intellectually, I am all on board with gratitude and thankfulness, and I know that I have so much to be thankful for. But as I kind of mentioned in the intro, in my everyday life, the way I think and the way I feel, being thankful is super tough. If you're listening to this week, the week that it came out, we're watching it on YouTube or listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We're only a few days away here in America from celebrating our important holiday of Thanksgiving. And so I have thankfulness and Thanksgiving on the mind. It's also getting a lot closer to the end of the year, where I like to reflect back on all that has happened. And in both cases, I personally want to look back with more thankfulness. So what's wrong? Why am I not more thankful? Why are you not more thankful? That's why we're going to explore 6 reasons why you and I are not more thankful. And by identifying these enemies of our thankfulness, then I believe we're going to be able to reverse engineer it and be more thankful. And that leads us right into reason number 1 why we are not more thankful, or why it comes so difficult. And that is unfair comparisons. I'll give you a heads up. Each of these is an un of a certain sort. And the first is unfair comparisons. We compare others' blessings with our own, and as a result, we often feel less than. Even when comparison does make us feel better, like in the situation where we do have more than someone else, or we have accomplished more than someone else, it's a vulnerable and losing game built on an overly simplistic understanding of how we all compare. You know, when we're comparing and we're winning or losing, so often we're just looking straight at the facts. Well, I have more money than them, or they have more money than me. I have more followers, or they have more followers. I've been promoted more times at a younger age, or they have. And yet it's so overly simplistic, and it's lacking the context. And so I would say this: if you're gonna compare, you should at least take into account all the factors surrounding the person you're comparing yourself with, both the good and the bad. You know, looking at the situations, perhaps you got promoted faster than someone else, but maybe you had family members who were able to train you in the business, and you actually got started earlier than as well, and got to actually practice it as a kid, as a teenager. And so are you further along? Are you a smarter employee than them? Maybe, but perhaps in that situation you had an advantage, and so to be prideful and to think you're better may be wrong, and vice versa. Maybe you're feeling bad about someone that is further along than you, but perhaps not in a I think the term is nepotistic kind of a way, but perhaps their father or their mother owned the business and they were raised in the business. And so the fact that they're further along than you at that point shouldn't make you feel bad. They've been actually doing it 10 years to year 2, even though you're the same age and you started officially the job at the same time. And so if you're going to compare, you got to look at the actual facts and sort of, I think it's almost like a handicap in golf. If you're going to get a real number, you got to look at, if you're going to compete, then you got to look at how you're coming into the competition. But in most cases, it's just better not to compare at all. And I think that one of the things that steals our joy, I've heard that before, is the comparison is a thief, or the thief of joy. It steals our joy. It steals our thankfulness. And so I think many times it's better just to not compare at all. But this is that first one. Reason number one that we're not more thankful is that we're looking at everywhere else. And instead of being proud of what we have done and what we have and the life we have, we're looking at other people. And yet many times, another way I've heard it said, it's a very Instagram way of saying it, is that we're comparing their highlight reel, their front of stage with our back of stage. Their on camera, front of camera to our behind the scenes. And it's an unfair comparison that leads to a lack of joy and a lack of thankfulness. Reason number two, we're just jumping right in. Where I think we lack thankfulness, that what robs our thankfulness, are unfulfilled plans. That's number two, unfulfilled plans. You thought you'd be married by now, or you thought you'd have children by now, or more children by now, or you'd be further along in your career. And as much as we want to be grateful for what we have and what we've accomplished, it's easy to let the shadow of what we don't have darken our mood and kill our thankfulness. To be honest, part of the reason that almost every week that I pick the episode that I picked, one is because we're coming into Thanksgiving. The other is that I've been struggling with thankfulness. I've been looking backwards at my life a little bit, and some days it looks joyful and full, and I'm so thankful and glad about it. And other days, I think I've allowed these enemies of thankfulness to come in, and I compare myself, and I start, if I'm in my early 30s or mid 30s now, 34 years old, and I'm at the age where I start asking when I see someone that's doing something great, how old are they? I look them up and I see how old they are. And when they're a few years younger than me, or in some cases a decade younger than me, and they're already killing it in things I'm still pursuing, it kind of hurts, and it can be hard to be thankful for where I'm at. It can be easy to let impatience come in, and it's a form of comparison, and it's the result sometimes of very real things that I have not achieved this yet, or you have not achieved that yet, or a dream has not come true. Here's what I'm not saying, is to pretend everything is just sunshine and roses, to never grieve or feel the loss of an unfulfilled dream or a yet to be fulfilled dream or plan. That's a real pain, and that can hurt. But it would be such a shame to miss out on what you do have because you are so grieving and focused on what you don't have. And so I'd encourage us, don't let this second enemy or reason for unthankfulness, unfulfilled plans, unfulfilled dreams, get in your way of a thankful and a fulfilled and a contented life. And the question today is, why am I not more thankful? An equally important question might be, why does thankfulness matter? Why should I be thankful? And to me, I would just say, simply put, thankfulness is a core component, I believe, of joyfulness and of happiness, of contentedness. And so if you want to be happy, if you want to be joyful, then you're going to want to be thankful, because I think thankfulness actually helps lead into joyfulness. And yet the reality of unfulfilled plans and dreams, it poses a threat, but it is not insurmountable if we can turn our attention to what is accomplished, what we do have, and the beauty that is in our life, as opposed to that which is not. Reason number three of why we are not more thankful is unrealistic expectations. A huge theme in both my life and others that I've been counseling or coaching recently is perfectionism. It's a dangerous, and I would argue even deadly, malady that so many of us suffer from. We end up having unrealistic expectations due to an attitude or a personality or way of thinking of perfectionism. Many times we're not thankful for what we do have, because we're still holding out and worse yet, beating ourselves up for an unrealistic set of expectations. So there's the pain and the challenge of unfulfilled plans, just things that have not happened at all. But then there's this equally and in some ways more malicious attitude that we take on, where that which we actually do have, we can't enjoy and we can't be thankful for because it is not perfect. And yet perfect, God is perfect. on this life, I don't know that anything else will be. And we miss out. In a past episode, I shared about defining your ideal income, which would just be a particular goal or ideal, using a spectrum from good to great. And I think this kind of idea of a spectrum from good to great is transferable to almost any area of our life. So it's a spectrum from good to great. But where I encourage where you're content at every level of the journey and good to great. And I think it's a healthier way to not let go of your high standards and have dreams while still enjoying the real here and now. I think that it would be such a shame to not enjoy the good because it's not yet great or it's not yet perfect. And instead, I want to learn to actually set realistic expectations and enjoy what is. And I think that when we don't, it becomes a thief to our contentment and it becomes a thief to our thankfulness. Reason number 4 is an unrelenting pace. Another number 4, an unrelenting pace. Sometimes we're just going so fast that we never have time to just stop and be thankful for what we have. If you're struggling to be thankful or content with your life, perhaps that you've just got the soundtrack of life sped up to, 2x, and you need to slow it down. This literally happens when I'm listening to my Bible. Sometimes I'm trying to catch up or something. And so I do it to 2 times the speed as it's being read to me on my audio Bible. And I will tell you, it is harder to pick up the nuance. It's harder to feel every emotion when they're flying past you at double speed. The same thing happens. I actually just as an aside, I like to take walks and I like to walk through my own city and sometimes end up walking a few miles to work, for example, in a route that I would usually drive. And it's amazing the houses and the buildings and the features that you notice when you're going, in this case, maybe 10 times slower or more than if you were driving. You just pick up on more. It's easier to enjoy. And so one of the reasons I think that we're often unthankful is that things just don't feel sweet. They don't feel beautiful, and they don't feel sweet, and they don't feel beautiful because we are just pounding them down. We're rushing them down. Just imagine for a moment, having a beautiful, 4 or 5 course meal, hundreds of dollar meal, and just pounding it down like it's a fast food burger and fries. You're going to miss out many times on the savoring and the enjoyment. And so you're not going to probably be very thankful for the meal. One of the things that I think is an enemy to our thankfulness and our contentment can be our speed. It's not always the case. And I don't know why I got food on the brain, I guess. There are times that I actually intentionally will just devour a burger. And I think that's kind of different. You're all in that burger and you're just enjoying it and you're loving it. And I don't think that we have to just always take a little sip of life or take a little small bite of our burger, the proverbial or literal burger. It's good to be caught up in life. It's good to be excited. It's fine to be fast paced. But if you're finding the lack of thankfulness, then you should check your speed and see if that instead of being fully absorbed in a moment, you're actually missing a moment because you're just going too fast. You're just simply too busy. And then obviously that's kind of an analogy for life, but in a quite practical sense, when you're super busy, you're tired, your health is down, your emotions are down, your energy is down, and so therefore your outlook on life and your thankfulness for things is just less. I heard a wonderful analogy years ago from the writer and thinker and trainer coach Michael Hyatt, and I think it was on his podcast years ago. I heard this. I'm not sure where he got it or if he made it, but it's this acronym HALT. When you are hungry, when you are angry, when you are lonely, or when you are tired, halt. Just stop, because you're not going to make the best decisions in that moment. You're much more likely to do something that you'll later regret. I needed to halt yesterday, and to some degree I did, and to some degree I didn't. But I was feeling some of that, particularly tiredness, and then it starts to cascade, and you start to feel a little bit isolated and lonely, and therefore angry, and then you're just eating food you shouldn't have. And so, our pace and being burned out or not is a very real part of it. Sometimes all you need to start feeling more thankful about life or optimistic about life is a good nap, a good cup of coffee, a quiet hour, and then you can expand upon that. Some time with God, time with your spouse. Sometimes just our pace is actually the problem, and that is reason number 4. And real quick, I just wanted to ask you, wherever you're watching or you're listening over on YouTube or podcasts or Spotify, that you would subscribe, rate, and review to the show. That would mean the world to me. It's going to help us continue to grow and reach more people and influence them with hopefully biblical and just life-giving wisdom and different areas of just practical, helping us go in practical wisdom. And so let me know. Let me know how you're liking the show. Let me know in the comments, in the rating, and the reviewing. Help me spread the word. And then finally, one of the biggest things is if you have a friend, and I hope you have a friend that would be interested in the show, let them know about it. Pass it on. Just share it to them. Send them a text with the link. And let's keep this party going. With that, let's jump back into reason number 5 as we're exploring this question and this idea, 6 reasons why you and I are not more thankful. Reason number 5 is this: an uneasy heart. Many times we can't enjoy the song of this life because the sounds of anxiety and worry are so loud in our hearts and minds. It's just this throbbing of fear, of worry, of anxiety, and it drowns out the beauty of this life. It's hard to be thankful when you're afraid or trying too hard to keep control. Thankfulness and peace are often intertwined in a circle. The more thankful you are, often the more peace you will feel. But likewise, the more peace you feel, the more thankful you often are. And that really kind of tied back into reason number 4, is you slow down to a pace where you can actually be happy and walking in a level of joy and peace. It's going to help you be more thankful, but then vice versa. Thankfulness helps with the peace and the joy. It's a circle. But I would just say one of the enemies, and this is not just, we'll just fix it, just turn it off. This is not an easy fix per se problem. But I think one of the reasons that if we're not thankful that it may be is that we're dealing with a lot of anxiety. We're dealing with a lot of worry and fear. And for me, the way that often manifests itself is just this need to just stay stimulated, stay on the news, stay watching YouTube, stay watching shows, stay entertained, stay busy knocking out tasks. I actually love being alone with my own thoughts. So it's not that fear of silence or being alone with my thinking, but it is perhaps a fear and an aversion to a stillness and to a peace. And I don't understand all that. That's a whole probably series of episodes, not a singular one. But I do say, and I would say, that one of the reasons why I think we lack thankfulness is an uneasy heart. And if we're going to want to walk in more thankfulness, then we can't keep ignoring this underlying anxious feeling that we have, this underlying worry or fear. Often that is tied in the need to control as opposed to trust God and to trust those around you, and to some degree just kind of do your best, but then accept the outcome and work with the outcome that comes. And when we're all wound up like this, it is incredibly difficult to be thankful. And, a little bit more, just kind of a side note on this idea of thankfulness. To some degree, it's just like a good virtue, and it feels to me like something that is for everybody else. Like I owe it to my spouse to be thankful to him or her because they're awesome, and that there's a truth to that. I owe it to my kids. How terrible a parent would I be, you might think, if I wasn't thankful for them? So I owe it to them to be thankful for them and to let them know I'm thankful. And it would just be so bad if I wasn't. And there's a truth to that. But then there's also just kind of a truth or a fundamental reality that we're meant to experience thankfulness, and it has a benefit for ourselves, for us personally. That it'd be such a shame, and it is such a shame, and I am speaking from personal experience, to have a beautiful life and yet not be thankful for it. It's like having these dark glasses on and walking in the most beautiful museum or cathedral, and there's this beautiful, vibrant color and glass, but you're seeing it through these tinted glasses with this shade of unthankfulness. And And so for you, it's as if it's just another building, just another day among just normal people. And you're literally missing out on the reality of your vibrant life because of your not not truly true, but filter of life that manifests itself as unthankfulness. And so it's why we want to get to the bottom. We want to fix a spirit, a mindset of unthankfulness and walk in thankfulness because, yes, it's for other people and other people deserve us to be thankful for them because they're worthy of thanks. People that have blessed us and helped us and mentored us, they're worthy of thanks. When we are having in America our holiday of Thanksgiving, there is so much that we should give thanks about, but also just for our own sakes in a very self-interested way. We want to be happy. Raise your hand wherever you're watching or listening if you want to be happy. And that is less likely to happen if we're not thankful, if we can't see with real eyes of appreciation the world around us. And one of the enemies of that, one of the reasons for that unthankfulness is an uneasy heart born out of, anxiety and worry. And then number 6, we're kind of getting deep here at the end. If I'm gonna grab a quick thing of tea, since that's a very deep thing to do as well. I don't think you can necessarily call yourself deep, but I just did. So I don't know. We're going to keep moving on. Number 6 is kind of intense, kind of deep as well. Number 5 was an uneasy heart. It's a reason that why we struggle to be more thankful. And number 6 is unsurrendered anger. We're angry that we don't match up with those we unfairly compare ourselves with. We're angry that our plans haven't come to be. We're angry that the plans we have accomplished aren't as picture perfect as we think they should be. We're angry at ourselves or others for the pace we run, and we know it runs us ragged, and we resent it, and yet we do it, and we feel stuck like a hamster on a wheel, and we're angry about it. We're angry or frustrated at the peace we can't seem to find. We're angry at our own sense of basically a lack of agency, of inability, of lack of power to change our circumstances and to be the person we want to be and live the life we want to live. And we're angry about it. And at some point we begin to actually self-sabotage and tear down the good we do have because we feel like it's not enough, because we're not thankful for it. I don't think it takes a genius to recognize that anger and thankfulness don't mix well. Anger could also be towards a person. Unforgiveness, which could be a whole episode in of itself, is poison to the person who is holding on to that unforgiveness. Unforgiveness is not a recipe for happiness, peace, joy, or thankfulness. And so if we're holding on, if you find that you're angry at a person, I think it's very hard to be angry at other people and at the same time happy and joyful and thankful about the world in general. Now, I do think there is perhaps a holy anger. There are injustices that you're angry against, but as a general rule, you either are a happy and hopeful person or you're an angry person, and we have to kind of choose one side or the other. To experience a thankfulness and contentment we want, we're going to have to forgive and come to peace with our life. We're going to have to let go of some things. And honestly, once again, this is probably where I was at very recently, just very recently, and coming in as I'm working on this podcast, is it come to this place where you're feeling the buildup of all this. You're feeling the buildup of unfair comparisons, but they don't feel unfair. They just feel like reality, and they make you feel terrible. And plans that haven't come to be, and questions to God, why haven't those happened yet? And the plans that have in life that had, it's just not quite perfect. And frustrated at the pace I'm running and the inefficiencies, and why can't I have more energy or do more? Frustrated at the peace I don't always feel. And I know I've been in this place of self-sabotaging anger recently. Had to ask God's help. I'd ask those around me's help, and we've passed it, and I'm working, and I hope you're working. I hope even as you're listening to this that you're going to work on it to get back to peace, to get back to thankfulness. We're going to wrap up this episode, but if you stayed until the end of the episode, I think it's safe to say that you want to be more thankful for your life and thankful for everybody in it. I don't think you would have stayed if thankfulness was not a priority for you or something that you're realizing you need to grow in. I believe by identifying these 6 enemies of our thankfulness, we can begin to attack them and do the opposite of them. And in so doing, begin to be more thankful. We can slow down. We can stop unfairly comparing ourselves to others, or stop comparing ourselves to others at all, and so on. I'd be remiss not to remind us all to pray about this issue. Bring God. I hope every week that, the premise of the show is that we are asking questions, and that, what happens when you ask questions, you get answers and you unlock wisdom. But it makes the most sense in the world to me that we would invite, particularly if you're of the Christian faith, and if you're not, I'd love to talk to you. You can message me. I would love every single person to come and know Jesus Christ and be a part of the Christian faith. But especially for those that already are, then it's the most natural thing in the world that we would invite the God of the universe, our Father God who loves us, into every conversation, and that includes this one. We could pray, we could talk to God, and we can ask Him, because He is able and He's willing to help us change our focus and change our heart to one of thankfulness. On the other hand, the evil forces of this world, yes, I do believe in the devil, both natural and supernatural, are all too happy for us to stay unthankful, uncontented, unhealthy. There's a lot of motivations and reasons why when we stay weak, it actually benefits other people. And so we're going to have to choose to fight for our peace, and fight for our joy, and fight for our thankfulness. And we want to invite God into that to help us so we can see this beautiful life we have as beautiful. While still, I didn't really touch on that, but that doesn't mean there are no problems. That itself could be a reason of unthankfulness. It doesn't mean that your life or my life is perfect and there aren't challenges, but the goal was to reorient ourselves towards focusing on that which we can be thankful for, and letting that be the primary fuel for our life that will actually help us then fix the things that are wrong. Okay, the final question is this: which of these 6 reasons for being unthankful do you most need to address? Is it unfair comparisons, unfulfilled plans, unrealistic expectations, unrelenting pace, you got to just slow down, an uneasy heart, or unsurrendered anger? Think about that right here, right now. And after this episode, I'd encourage you to begin to work on one or more of these issues, address them, so that you can walk in a greater and greater degree of thankfulness and contentment and joy in your life. Once more, I just want to ask you to, wherever you're watching or listening, rate, review the show, and share it with a friend who want to keep growing what we are doing here. Thank you again for listening, for watching, for being with me. I will see you next Tuesday. God bless you guys. Have a great day.